Laura Bartley. I'm a Chief Inspector and I work for our Learning and Development Department. I have been a police officer for the last 18 years. I have worked predominantly within our crime investigation unit and had lots of different roles within that. So I've worked within public protection, I've worked within major crime, investigating murders and unexplained deaths. And so really broad and varied career within policing, and I still absolutely love my job. So I'm 42. I've got a lovely husband. I've got two little children who are now 11 and 9. One of them's just about to go off to comprehensive school. I've got a huge dog, a Bernese mountain dog, so family life is really centred around the children, going off walking, hiking, that sort of thing, and just enjoying life with the kids. A challenge at times, but thoroughly rewarding in both senses. So I absolutely love being a mum and I absolutely love being a police officer. I've got the most supportive husband and wider family, and that's been a huge help, and I think probably that's really enabled me to do the things that I've done and be able to give everything that I want to give to policing, but also to spend that time with my family and make sure that that's important, you know, family time, and we do the things that we want to do together as a family. So it doesn't always work. There are times where, you know, I've been late for family gatherings, or I've missed Christmas Day, and those sorts of things, but that comes with the job, you know, and as long, you know, it's always worked out fairly. So if you work Christmas Day, you have your Boxing Day with your family, and you just rearrange your festivities around those sorts of things. So at the time when I fell pregnant with both my children, I worked on a specialist team that was investigating rapes and serious sexual offences, so working shifts, and yeah, I had some time whilst I was pregnant. There are some rules around what you can and can't do. There's risk assessments and things about where you can go. So that was a frustration. I think as somebody who I loved being out and about and doing the job. So that was a little bit frustrating. I wasn't allowed to go out to custody. I wasn't allowed to go out and interview people. But that's a relatively short chunk of time in terms of my policing service. And then coming back into policing, again, it wasn't without its challenges. You know, I had about 8 months off with both of my children. And transitioning back into the workplace was a bit of a challenge at times. So I did have a different line manager, a different supervisor. So it was just making sure I stayed in contact with my friends, the people I worked alongside, so that when I came back into the workplace, it wasn't, you know, such a shock. But yeah, it's working shifts. I found an absolute dream in terms of working with the children. My husband works Monday to Friday, so I would be you know, obviously off in the week sometimes, then he'd have the children on weekends. And on a serious note, my husband's relationship with his children is so much better, I think, because he was lone parenting for lots of those times as well. So yeah, he's got a really lovely relationship with his kids because he was it a lot of the time. So yeah, so that worked out well. So certainly when I had the very small children, I had to prioritise my children. So in terms of the roles I took on and things, then I was, but there's so much variety in policing. So there are different roles that you can use for different, when you're in different times in your life and you've got different circumstances at home. So at the time, the shift pattern I was on completely suited me and my family life. And then as my children have got older and when they were in full-time schooling, I was able to explore other options throughout, you know, in terms of my career and promotion and those sorts of opportunities. So yeah, I've just grown sort of as my family has grown. This allowed me to grow and take on different opportunities that have presented themselves. I still genuinely love policing, and if anything, I'm a little bit gutted that I'm not doing the frontline policing bit anymore. That's the bit I really love, and I did that for such a chunk of my service. Policing has got something for everyone, I think. It's got such variety, it's got lots of desk-based roles, it's got lots of operational roles, but that shift work can really fit around family life as well. So it's not without its challenges. You know, there are times where you do miss out on important things within your family, or you're late for things. But but in the round, I think it gives you such a rich kind of such a rich experience. And in terms of as a woman in policing, I've got 2 daughters. I'm really proud to be a woman in policing and be that role model. And hopefully they think that they can do anything, and wouldn't be fazed by any sort of challenges they face the job market in a few years' time. A greater emphasis now on academia, so there's a lot of study that goes alongside that. There always has been. So when I joined, you had to sit lots of exams, you had to absorb a lot of, there's a lot of law you need to understand and have a grasp of before you can go out as an operational police officer. It has switched, so it's slightly more academic now. But that doesn't mean that if you haven't got academic qualifications, that you can't join us. You can, and you gain those qualifications whilst you're with us. So there's 2 different routes in. 2 main routes in. So the first one, you can join us as an apprentice, so that's without a degree, and you do your 3-year degree programme with us. It's really intense. There's a lot of study in your own time, but there's a lot of support that goes alongside that as well. And at the end of that 3 years, you then, whilst earning a salary, you then have a degree, so you don't have the you don't have to pay for your university study the way that I certainly did and many other people do. The other route in, the main route in, is that you have a degree and you come in and join us then on a 2-year diploma. So a lot of that, so there's less of the academic work, lots of operational and occupational sort of credits that you need to gain along the way. And then we also have an option for people who've done a policing degree, a specific policing degree, and they can join us with that degree, and then they do a much, much shorter condensed course, and then they go out operationally much sooner. So those are the 3 sort of main routes in for us. Rewarding, definitely.
And why is that?
Because I think I look back, or I think back of the people's lives that I've touched in sometimes very small ways, and I just think it's incredibly rewarding to think that you've had that impact, whether it was helping them to find justice for some terrible thing that's happened to them. Even if justice wasn't found, just giving them the courage to go and seek justice, because even for some people that's such an enormous thing for them to have to do. And just being there for people in their darkest moments, and sharing those moments with people, and just being that face of policing, I guess, in some of those really challenging times.